I have indeed. I've participated a good chunk in it as well. And yeah, there's nothing quite like it. It really is just a sapping event. And people always say how tiring it is, but I think the only way you truly understand the steeplechase is if you go and do one. And often, we have World Athletics talking about the mile steeplechase, and a lot of athletes thinking, 3,000, 5,000 athletes, strong runners on the flat, thinking that they can transition quite well, but they never quite give it enough time, and it does take time to really perfect your craft at this event. And like you say, you need to be fast, you need to be strong, but you need to be able to cope with a certain level of fatigue, a different level of fatigue. And of course, you've got the facts that I'm sure, like the 400 hurdles as well, the injury risk training for this event is a lot higher. So it can be quite difficult to get that balance when you're training. You want to do X amount of hurdles during, your preparation and during the winter, but are you picking up niggles? And it's a difficult task to balance the two.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it just adds an extra element of getting injured from time to time. I mean, many athletes get injured just doing their solo event without having to also jump over barriers while they do it. So, it's a massive kudos to these athletes. And part of what phases me as well, I mean, this is coming from a short sprinter's perspective, that getting your shoes wet mid-race just never seems that appealing to me. But nonetheless, it looks as though we have Grace Featherstone-Hoare of Canada, as I said, top 8 at the NACAC Championships earlier this year. We also have Jessica Furlan, also of Canada, World Uni Games silver medalist and a 2-time national champion. So 2 very high caliber athletes, both from the other side of the pond, from Canada, coming to the start of this field. And they're just about hanging on to those wave lights, it looks as though as well, although they are just starting to fall slightly behind. And it does seem as though those wave lights are at a pretty incredible pace, so the athletes behind in the rest of that group are left behind. I'm not sure if you've ever raced with the wave lights map, but I just feel as though it must be quite strange. You must just be staring at your feet the whole time if you're trying to stay on them.
Look, I don't know who or why these wave lights were arranged for 72s. Was there a late dropout that we don't know about? I'm not sure, because they are a huge addition. Like, it's one of the technological advances that we have seen change the game. As well as shoes and tracks, wave lights have been massive. However, these poor athletes, you've got the facility to have wave lights at this track, but unfortunately they could not capitalize on it whatsoever, because they're just going way ahead of a pace that these women can sustain. Quite frankly, if they could sustain 72s, they wouldn't be here today. They'd be at the Olympic Games. And not only that, they'd be in the top 10 in the world. So bizarre to see the lights set at that sort of speed, but the women doing well to hang on. Featherstone-Hoare of Canada, like I said, she has got great experience. She is one of the top 8 in North America, and she's looking good at the moment. Also, Jess Furlan of Canada as well. She is one of the fastest in the field, 9:33. So these women are experienced enough in that regard. And I had them they're lapping in around about 76, Oscar, 76, 77 at the moment. So they've gone off fast and they've slowed. And I expect we're going to come in around about 9:45 on a good day.
Yeah, that's what you'd expect. So I think there might be a secondary wave light as well. It's not the case that these wave lights just have one setting. You can have them on different paces. So I wouldn't be surprised if they have a sort of 75 pace that's just lapping behind with that previous group. And it was actually a really good addition. I think the University of Birmingham, in fact, invested in some wave lights, or there is a company around Birmingham, because they are set up by University of Birmingham student athletes at these BMC events. And they are a fantastic addition that just level up these events, and it does favour the front runners, which is nice. We do enjoy watching athletes streak away, and I wouldn't quite say that Grace Featherstone-Hoare is streaking away quite yet, but there is a gap now. I wouldn't quite say that it's a leading pair anymore, with Jessica Furlan just dropping slightly behind, more towards the chasing pack to the left of your screens. But Grace Featherstone-Hoare looking very solid over the barriers and looking very solid compared to the rest of the field. She does have the best personal best at 9:31.27, so let's hope that she can get close to that today.
Yeah, that was another 76-77 for her. So she seems to have settled at about that rhythm, which is strong enough running, and she won't be too far off. Like I said, if she can close hard, she won't be too far off her lifetime best. If she continues to slow, though, obviously that will start to slip away from her. But more than anything, Oscar, like you said, the biggest thing is that we've got a high caliber steeplechase in the UK. It's something we've failed to have for the last few years. They've cropped up every now and again. We've seen the 2000 steeplechase as well, but we do need something going forward. I think the athletes, the highest athletes in the UK, people like Phil Norman, have spoken out about that, and they want more opportunities to really run fast in this country, because quite frankly, there's not many opportunities on the global circuit either, and hence why we have athletes all the way over from Canada, Finland, the Netherlands, Austria, Sweden, and of course the UK here today doing this race, because there just isn't the opportunities. So it's good to see so many, and actually a deep field as well of a good caliber.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the steeplechase is definitely one of the more niche events that you see, especially in open competitions. And I mean, the open competition system in the UK isn't perfect by any means, but it is pretty incredible. I was in the US last year on a year abroad, and there just isn't the same infrastructure, despite there being tracks everywhere you look. I mean, every secondary school will have a track pretty universally, but they don't have the same level of open competitions. They don't have the same setup as the British Milers Club have here in the UK. So including these steeplechase events, and we were talking earlier about the 400 hurdles, including those more fringe events perhaps, just raises their profile. And the fact that we've got so many international athletes, like you were saying, from Sweden, Austria, Finland, Netherlands, Canada, US, Canada and Norway. I mean, bringing that calibre of athletes is only going to be good for the sport, especially on a national level. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of an uptake in events like these as they become more popular on the British stage.
Absolutely. And I think Featherstone Hall was through 2K in around about 6:28. So they're into that final K, into the final 800 really for Featherstone Hall coming up now, and that was another 76-second lap, so she seems to have just settled there. She's looking awfully strong. What's good to see, Oscar, is she's not really faltering when it comes to the jump. She's not stuttering into them too much, and when she lands, she's into her running very, very quickly. Those water jumps, of course, getting slightly harder as we go, but she looks strong, and that's good to see, because you've got Furlan behind her, who could chase her down over this last sort of 600 meters, but she just needs to hold that gap up at the front.
Yeah, Furlan and Featherstone Hall were both the best on paper coming into this race, and they really have showed their class so far. And with about 600 meters to go now, it does look as though it's going to take a bit of a miracle from Furlan to catch her Canadian compatriot. But, you know, it all could happen, especially with the water jumps included as well. It adds another bit of jeopardy, but how good does Featherstone Hall look over these barriers? So that's where you can tell the difference between someone who is a natural 3K steeple runner and someone who used to be a pretty good flat runner who wants to transition into the steeplechase event. And it looks as though that's what's going to separate them here as Featherstone Hall comes into the bell with 1 lap to go, and she has about 30 or 40 meters. Furlan not on picture at the moment, 8:22, and that's just about 76 again, I believe, on that lap, so we'll see if she can close any faster than that. But she looks very smooth. Furlan looks smooth as well, but it looks as though it'll be too little, too late for the Canadian, as Featherstone Hall over a barrier again into the final lap. This is where it will start to hurt for these athletes. You see it written over the face of Furlan there. Come all the way from Canada here to the BMC GP in Bury, trying to show their stuff this late in the season. But it looks as though it will be Featherstone Hall coming through with about 200 meters to go this first steeplechase event. She navigates the barrier well, a very natural steeplechaser, Featherstone Hall from Canada. Class of the field coming into the race, class of the field coming to the end of the race as well. As she approaches the penultimate barrier, stutters slightly, but gets over it. This is where it really starts to hurt for Featherstone Hall as she approaches the finish now. She will take the win. It's not going to be a personal best, but it will be 9:40 showing up for us trackside, which is a fantastic effort for the Canadian athlete. And I believe that that was Furlan coming through quickly for second place, and that was Ramp Cribbs of the United States finishing strongly to come in just behind as well. So that must have been quite a quick finish there, but I mean, how good was Featherstone horse? She looked like such a natural hurdler throughout.
Really, really strong, and I think to solo a 940 when your lifetime best is 931 bodes well, doesn't it? You know, had she have had those pace lights, something to just chase a little bit, I think towards the end of that race she's just focusing on having the clean water jumps and jumping the barriers quite smoothly. That's all you can really do, to be honest with you. So had she have had those lights to chase, I think we could have seen something a little quicker. But you know, that BMC All-Comers record, she could have, I reckon she could have got quite close to that 924, but was strong running from her nonetheless, and she made it hard from the off because Furlan, unfortunately, was in the same boat, just sort of 20-30 meters back the whole race, wasn't she? She just couldn't get onto her and seemed to maintain similar lap times towards the end of that race, but once that gap opened, she just could not close it. So there you have it, the women's 3,000 meter steeplechase. That's what it will do to you, strewn all over the track. And so often the way after these tough endurance events. But men's 800 will be, men's 800 H race, by the way, will be next on the track in just, what, about 7-8 minutes time. So we've got a little bit of time, Oscar, so hopefully we can bring you some results.
Well, we do have the results from the earlier events in the day. So the 400 meter hurdles for the men, we actually didn't quite get on air in time for that, but it was Onyeka Oko who took the win there in 52.48. Oko, a very decorated athlete at the age group level, but still trying to find his feet as an under 23. He was a semi-finalist at the Euro under 20 champs, and he went to the World under 20 champs as well. So maybe that's him finding a little bit of form at the end of the season. Ben Schofield in second of Gateshead, 53.57. Piers Lockwood, 54.58. And then Tom Grantham rounding it off in 62.30. Then the women's 400 hurdles, we did have Orla Brennan taking that in 61 flat. So not the fastest time for her. Louise Robinson coming in second, 64.52. Katie McIntosh of Newark with 65.42. Then Maya Stewart in 65.77.
Yeah, there were your long sprints, if you like, just wrapping up a few of those 800s as well. It was the J race, which was won by Finley Ross, dominating really the Edinburgh University, former Edinburgh University student, 153.53. Finley Goddard was in second, 155.60. So almost putting 2 seconds on him. Rob Price, 155.92. Alistair Douglas, 156.20. Curtis Smale, 157.31. Ben Pusel, 157.43. And Luke Ward and Corwood, 158 and 159 respectively. So that concludes that in the women's steeplechase as well. The only confirmed result we've got is obviously Featherstone Hawes, 9:40.45 officially of Canada. So that was perhaps one of the, I know we've got some great international talent in the men's 3,000 steeplechase, but also that men's 1,500 Cooper Tier coming over. Perhaps it's a nice time to preview what is coming up in some of the races, because the women's 800 just looks mesmerizing.